Hello everybody, welcome in to Trackalicious, where we are at the halfway mark of the GT4 Rookies Monday Championship. Tonight, we are at the mystery track, which was revealed to be Snetterton, the 3-mile track in the British countryside, being used for tonight's round number 4. Welcome in everybody, hope you're doing well. And we hope to make your Monday even better. I am Kuja Terekov, bringing you the broadcast of the round number 4 for the GT4 Rookies tonight.
Green light, give it all you can.
As we will get into the qualifying session here tonight, this will mark the halfway point of the championship. And after tonight, we will get a good look of how the championship will be stacking up. Format remains unchanged as we have a Camaro spinning in the pit lane, looking to get back and point it in the correct direction. 15-minute qualifying coming up, with a 20-minute race after that, and we will do that twice. Gabriel Nunez going out onto the track in the 771 Mercedes. As he looks to put a good lap out. Tricky to do from the get-go, of course. These GT4s don't have any tire warmers, as the Porsche of John Baptist goes a little bit wide on the exit of turn 2. Tai Chin looking to get another race win here tonight, using the True Racing KTM as they have all season long, battling it out with Reese Simmons for that top spot. Throughout the first 3 rounds, we'll see if the story continues here tonight or whether we'll have another contender for that top spot in the race. Chris Saunderson first to go out on a hot lap in the number 18 Audi, pushing out of the final corner and on to the first timed lap we go with the Audi into turn 1. Very quick right-hander, down a gear, shooting off to the right-hand side, trying to maximize the cornering speed as much as possible before going into the tight hairpin at turn number 2. Running just a touch wide, but keeping it within track limit boundaries before going into turn 3. A pretty similar radius to the first corner, except this time going to the left-hand side. And into turn 4, another tight hairpin at Agostini. Going into the turn 5 and turn 6 complex. Turn 5, very quick kink to the left-hand side before another tight hairpin at turn 6. Little bit of a straight before dabbing onto the brakes, trying to get as much speed as possible before entering onto the Bentley straight. And into a tricky complex we go at turn number 8 and 9. A good overtaking opportunity if you can get it lined up side by side. Quick left-hander and then a big sausage curb protecting the inside of turn 9. Chris Saunderson able to go nice and smooth through there and into the bomb hole at turn 10. And then a long right-hander to close the lap for a tight 90-degree left Once again, a big sausage curb protecting the apex, and Chris Saunderson blasting to the line now. See what benchmark time he can put for the drivers to chase. It's a 1:59.047 as Tai Chin goes to provisional pole in a 1:57.527. Kepler up to the line in the 62 McLaren and gets into a top 5 position, but John Baptiste able to take that spot away as Gabriel Nunez moves into that top 5 spot in his AMG. Fellow AMG driver Reese Simmons looking to get close to pole position. 0.02 of a second separate the two championship rivals, Reese Simmons and Tai Chin, at the top of the charts. Spady Bud in the Mad Fox Camaro coming up to the line and goes into the top 10, goes to 7th place. Pretty close to Josh Ransom's time, within a 1/10 of a second. But Josh Ransom is looking to improve his time and will ride on board through the final sector with Josh Ransom in his 325 Porsche Cayman. Just a quick right-hander, just lingering onto the power, easing it onto there, trying to find the right braking point into the final left-hander, a little bit heavy onto the curb, but no major dramas for the Porsches. Now it's just a blast up to the line for Josh Ransom. Can he sneak into the top 5? Not quite on this lap. He was able to improve his time, get closer to Rally Dutchy, but needs another 25 milliseconds to get ahead of Rally Dutchy's time. Sarah Klein in the 904 KTM has a valid lap on the board. And it's looking like a pretty good improvement up to this point for Sarah Klein, and gets ahead of Grzada in the number 29 AMG. As Spady Bud comes up to the line with a lot of traffic up ahead of him, unable to get a personal best on the board on this go around in the 21 Camaro. Tai Chin able to improve the benchmark at the top to a 1:57.057, leaving nearly half a second gap to Reese Simmons in 2nd place. In 3rd is Prakash Natasan. In 4th is Estevez. 5th, Saunderson. 6th, Rally Dutchy. 7th, Josh Ransom. 8th, Spady Bud here trying to look for an improvement with a bit of traffic up ahead of him, hopefully not affecting him too much. Nunez sitting in 9th, Kepler in 10th, Baptiste 11th, Sarah Klein in 12th, Grzada 13th, and Mike Fisher, the last of those who have qualified so far. The 3 Alpines yet to set a lap time from Screech, Knife, and Repis. Chris Douglas in the pits, and Hezzy Thomas looking for a valid lap as well. And here is Lewis Screech, just ahead of Spady Bud on track with some Camaro traffic of his own to be dealing with. Welcome in, Niall. Oh, contact between the Camaro and the Alpine. That's certainly not what you want to see in the qualifying session. Just a bit of conflict out on track between Screech and Mike Fisher, but both of them able to avoid heavy damage as the Alpine of Repus in the 28 looking to get a valid lap on the board coming up to the line here. And goes up to 12th, gets ahead of Sarah Klein. And now 5 minutes left in the qualifying session. Certainly want to get those quick laps in now. So yes, cheers Niall, welcome in. Sorry that you are on the sidelines, but glad to have you here with us. And yes, Mr. Brian DeSantiago, triple Alpines on track. No BMWs, unfortunately. But hopefully the triple Alpines, 2 KTMs on track as well. Well, we'll see just where the Alpines will finish. As John Baptist rounds the final corner. It was looking like a pretty decent lap. And then the commentator's curse kicked in. We tuned in with him and lost a little bit of time coming up to the line here. But still in a top 10 position. As Vladislav Knife in the 173. As he looks to get a valid lap on the board and does so, goes up to 13th. About a 10th behind fellow Alpine driver Repus. Ah, yes, the sick brain forgot to tell me it was sick. That's just so how it goes. As Repus gets an improvement up to the line, but still can't get past Kepler up in 11th place. Now 2/10 is the gap between Repus in the Alpine and Kepler in 11th. And at the moment, your boy Tai Chin Niall is looking pretty decent in the pits with a near half-second gap to Reese Simmons, who has also returned to the pits. So the top two will not have anything to say about their order going into the final 2.5 minutes of the qualifying session. Gabriel Nunez sits in 8th in the 771 AMG, but he would like to start even higher. Can he find 3/10 to get ahead of Josh Ransom? He got a 10th and still across the line before the checkered flag. And so he might even have time for 2 laps. As the Alpines circulate around once more looking for an improvement, it's Knife who will be first. And he gets ahead of Kepler up to 11th place. Where can Konstantin Repus go in the number 28? And Repus gets into the top 10, gets ahead of John Baptist. And Repus is happy with that lap time. He will return back to the pit lane. As Nunez is going so fast, the cameras can't keep up with the 771. Needs another 2/10 to get ahead of Josh Ransom in 7th place, just keeping it on track. That might cost him that little bit of lap time he needed, though. A clean exit out of turn 9 is needed for Gabriel Nunez, but he will have the final corner left, and now it is pedal to the metal all the way up to the line. He might have time to go around once more, as he is unable to improve on his personal best on this lap, but crucially across the line before the checkered flag waves, so he will have this final lap remaining to try and move further than 8th place. This is the last lap for Aka Kepler in the 62 McLaren, and he wiggled out of the final corner, losing all of the time that he gained, pulling off to the side of the road and returning back to the pits. Ezzy Thomas currently sitting in 15th, needs about a second to get ahead of Kepler out of the final corner to the line for the final time in the first qualifying session, and can't improve his personal best time, so it'll be 15th for Ezzy Thomas. And Lewis Screech on the board gets a top 10 start. Can he get even higher as he goes around the final corner, keeps it just within track limits? Needs about 4/10 to get ahead of Spady Bud. Can he get it? He finds a little bit of time, but not enough to start on the front of the 5th row. Reese Simmons out for a final push attempt with some traffic up in front. Hopefully not slowing Reese Simmons down too much. And up to the line goes Reese Simmons, gets a personal best on the board, but it's not enough to get close to Tai Chin's time, as Gabriel Nunez is the final driver to cross the line, and he does get ahead of Rally Dutchy to start on the front of the 4th row. As he being given some energy from the chat, as he hopes to get another top 10 finish on the championship, starting from 15th tonight. And we will get started with our grid walk for the first 20-minute race of the night. Cheers for the hydrate. Take a sip of some green tea here. Get the throat nice and soothed for the 19 cars getting started for race number 1. And out the front, leading the way, is Tai Chin once again in the 54 True Racing KTM with a handful of podiums on the season. Tai Chin looking to capitalize on the front row position. Can Reese Simmons steal a race win from a front row in the 64 Skyline by Tan BAMG? Starting from the front row once again and looking to finish on the podium once again, as Reese Simmons has done for a handful of times this season. Prakash Natasan starts from 30, is looking for his first podium finish of the season in the Dark Side Racing number 82 Camaro. He starts next to Daniel Estevez in the Cayman Solaris 128 Porsche. Chris Anderson gets a top 5 start in the number 18 Allison Racing Audi, with Josh Ransom in the 325 Porsche next to him in 6th. Gabriel Nunez snagged 7th at his final flying lap attempt in the Liepert Motorsport 771 AMG. Rally Dutchy will start from 8th in the Street Animals 621 Camaro. Then we got Spady Bud in the 21 Mad Fox 21 Camaro. Starts from the front of the 5th row. And Lewis Screech rounds out the top 10 in the 52 Hamburger Racing Alpine. And he starts a trio of Alpines, in the middle of which is Konstantin Repis in the RSK Racing Team number 28 Alpine. He shares the 6th row with Vladislav Knife in the TK Racer 173 Alpine. In 13th is John Baptist in the Trinity Racing number 7 Porsche. He starts next to the McLaren of Aka Kepler in the number 62. Next you have Hezzy Thomas being given some energy from the chat in the number 59 Dog Box Racing AMG. Sarah Klein starting from 16th in the 904 Transrights X Tan B Performance KTM, with TTV Gerzada in the 29 AMG lining up in 17th place. Then you got Mike Fisher in the 23 Code Red Camaro starting from the back of the 9th row, and Chris Douglas able to take the race start in the 718 Generation AMR Super Racing Aston Martin as he starts from 19th place. Welcome in, Dr. Porkchop. Hope you're having a good Monday so far. You join us just in time. Formation lap underway. 19 rookies getting ready to go racing for the first time tonight. As Tai Chin will lead the grid once again this season. Reese Simmons certainly will provide a challenge from the front row. We've seen the KTM bogged down a little bit on the starts, and welcome to the podium as well, Dr. Porkchop, on a 22-month streak, nearly made it to 2 years. Quite a feat, and thank you for the continued support. Always good to see Dr. Porkchop out on track. Usually see him in the Aston Martin, but it's just Chris Douglas, the lone Aston Martin on the grid tonight. We'll see how many places he can make up after serving a qualifying ban, but able to take the race start. We'll see what sort of race pace the Aston Martin has in the 20 minutes of action up ahead. The 3 Alpines of Screech, Repis, and Knife starting from 10th, 11th, and 12th. We'll see if those nimble little machines can get some race pace and maybe work their way up into the top 5. Chris Saunderson got a podium last week at Watkins Glen. Can he get another one here tonight around Snetterton? And rounding the final corner they go in zipper formation. They get ready to go racing for the first time tonight. 20 minutes on the clock as we wait for the green lights to release the rookies for the first race of the night.
Green light, go, go, go.
And boogity, boogity, boogity. Indeed, here we go. Tai Chin gets a good getaway from the front row, but Reese Simmons challenging into turn 1, nearly going into the back of the KTM. Prakash Natasan with a pretty clean getaway as Chris Saunderson up a place. He moves up to 4th with Josh Ransom now challenging for a spot in the top 5. The two Porsches side by side as they exit turn 2 with Josh Ransom having the inside for turn 3. That is now a 5th place position for Josh Ransom. Oh, and the Alpine getting bumped off the track by Spady Bud, but remains under control as the two Alpines of Revis and Knife getting some good starts as they move up some places, but there's contact at the back. That's Gabriel Nunez getting spun off, and into the infield section he goes, and the whole field gets jumbled up just outside the top 10. Oh, and Chris Douglas, heavy contact. The Camaro of Spady Bud gets spun around as Hezzy Thomas able to avoid a good bit of that contact. The tires go flying as Vladislav Knife momentarily was inside the top 10, but now has that work to do all over again as he gets shuffled down to 13th. Oh, and contact with Hezzy Thomas, sending the AMG, and more contact. The two Camaros come together as the AMG of Gabriel Nunez nearly collects Hezzy Thomas on the outside of turn 9. And with all that chaos going on, the top 3 remain unchanged, with Tai Chin leading from Reese Simmons, Prakash Natazan holding on to a podium place. Chris Saunderson in 4th, Josh Ransom goes up to 5th. Daniel Estevez looking to change that though, as he has the inside line for the turn 2 hairpin, and he's got a top 5 position. The two Porsches battling it out very well for a spot in the top 5. John Baptist about 2.5 seconds down the road from the pair of Porsches battling for position. Then you have Lewis Screech moving up to 8th after starting from 10th. Konstantin Repis in 9th, and TTV Gurzada in a top 10 position after starting from near the back of the grid. And more dramas now for 15th place as Kepler gets overtaken by Douglas. Yeah, yellow flags are waving as Kepler hoping to use the top speed of the McLaren, but Chris Douglas gets a good exit out of turn 6 as he tries to chase down the Camaro of Spady Bud. Nunez trying to make up ground after his early contact with one of the Alpines. Exiting turn 4, and there's more contact as he just goes into the back of the McLaren there. And his efforts to try and overtake the McLaren. Oh, and going into the back of the McLaren once more and sending it spinning around and warping through. Mike Fisher and Hezzy Thomas having to take evasive action as Gabriel Nunez, good sportsmanship from him, just slowing down and allowing Kepler to catch back up and go through. Reese Simmons still all over the back of the KTM, not giving Tai Chin any breathing room at the front of the pack, trying to force the KTM into an error. And these two machines will certainly be very different and stronger in different parts of the track. See if Reese Simmons can capitalize. As John Baptist now in an Alpine sandwich. Lewis Screech getting by on the previous lap And Konstantin Repis, the number 28 Alpine, looking to follow Lewis Screech through the number 7 Porsche. Going into turn 8, the Alpine just having to linger behind the Porsche as Lewis Screech kicks up some dust, exiting turn 9. As they go into the final corner, we'll see if Repis can take advantage. He tries to go to the inside, but not a lot of room there to go through. John Baptist already committing to the corner. And Lewis Screech goes, or not Lewis Screech, excuse me, that was Konstantin Repis, goes heavily onto the sausage curb as Grzada goes through into 9th. This is what the back of the lead KTM is seeing. Reese Simmons hustling the number 54 as Tai Chin having to take the defensive line into the hairpin at turn 4, and he runs wide, slowing him down on the exit, but he shuffles himself right to the middle of the track and doesn't allow Reese Simmons any position to try and get the AMG alongside. And so Tai Chin remains in the lead. With all this battling going on, Prakash Natasan will be trying to get closer and closer. As we have a change in position for 4th, Daniel Estevez gets through Chris Saunderson back into the position he started. So the top 5 remains unchanged from their grid order. And it goes even further than that, and it goes down to Josh Ransom. He also started in the position that he is running now in 6th. John Baptist getting shuffled down to 10th now. He is behind Grzada, who must have made a mistake because he is now behind the Alpine of Konstantin Repis. Vladislav Knife got through Spady Butt on the previous lap, as the 173 Alpine looking to get into the top 10. A 4-second gap, though, separates him from John Baptist, who occupies that final top 10 spot. Quite a narrow track at Snetterton, and all of the runoff consists of grass, so very tricky to get the grip if you do end up running a little bit wide or deep into a few corners. Spady Butt not giving up 11th place easily, though. He wants it back in the 21 Camaro. Pushing the Camaro, nearly oversteering it on the exit of 7 down the Bentley straight. Can the Camaro use the V8 power to blast past the Alpine, thinking about shaping a move down the inside? But Repis, or excuse me, that's Vladislav Knife, confident on the brakes and able to hold off the attack thrown by the Camaro.
Still a long way to go.
Halfway into the race, lots of action so far. And still 10 minutes remain. Tai Chin able to pull out a good gap now to Reese Simmons. It's nearly 2 seconds between the lead KTM and the 64 AMG of Reese Simmons. Prakash Natasan dropped back just a touch, 4 seconds now between the 82 Camaro in third and Reese Simmons in second place. Estevez runs in fourth, Saunderson in fifth as Spady Bud thinking about a move down the inside of turn 2, but not a lot of room on offer. Chris Saunderson rounds out the top 5 with Josh Ransom in 6th, Lewis Screech in 7th, Grzada in 8th, Konstantin Repis in 9th, John Baptist rounds out the top 10. And then you have this duo of Spady Bud and Vladislav Knife in the pink Alpine just ahead of him, looking to continue their battle, but also maybe get closer to John Baptist and maybe sneak into the top 10. Oh, and the 52 Alpine stranded at the side of the road. John Baptist, Knife, and Bud able to get through as Lewis Screech rejoins, but now in 12th place. Nunez on the back of Douglas. This is the battle for 15th place. Douglas defending the inside, forcing the AMG the long way around. But Chris Douglas confident on the brakes. He goes a little bit onto the gravel at the apex, but able to hold off the attack being thrown by the AMG. Ty Chin certainly getting into the groove, setting 2 purple laps in a row, increasing the gap to 3.5 seconds over Reese Simmons. As the battle continues on between Spady Bud and Vladislav Knife for what is now a spot in the top 10, with Lewis Screech dropping back in his number 52 Alpine. Chris Saunderson getting close to the back of Daniel Estevez. He was able to get through at the start of the race and onto the back of the Porsche. There's contact between the two. And the Audi slowing up to allow the Porsche to maintain position. But Saunderson just able to carry so much more speed through turn 8 and 9. Didn't expect the Porsche to be slowed down so much. And into the back he goes. Fortunately, both parties able to continue on into the last 6 minutes of the race. Spady Bud close once again to the Alpine. We saw the Camaro try to throw a move here into turn 1 a couple of laps ago. This time the Alpine defends the inside. Can Spady Bud find the grip around the outside? He, in fact, tries to throw the over-under move. The Alpine's ready for it, though, and into the heavy braking zone of the hairpin. Can Spady Bud find it? The Alpine goes a touch deep, opens up the inside for the Camaro, and they are going to run side by side down into turn 3. The Alpine has the inside and contact. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the Camaro and the Alpine go spinning off into the grass. As Daniel Estevez gets overtaken by Chris Saunderson. Let's see how the Audi was able to get the move done. Oh, it was just a little bit of an oversteer moment from Daniel Estevez. And Chris Saunderson lined it up out of turn 4. He has the inside for turn 5. Estevez just can't turn in. He tried to fight back around the outside into the tight hairpin at turn 6. Gives just about enough room to the Audi on the outside. Or I should say the Audi just gives enough room to Daniel Estevez on the inside. But Chris Saunderson getting the move done. And for now, has 4th place. And into the final 4 minutes we go. These two continuing to battle it out. Spady Bud on the back of Knife once again after their contact at the beginning of the lap. Hezzy Thomas trying to get close and maybe benefit from a couple of positions here. Out of the final corner, the Camaro gets the move and already getting ahead of the Alpine. It looks like there's some front end damage to the front of the 173. Hopefully won't slow him down. And his chances of fighting Hezzy Thomas for what is now 12th place. Hezzy Thomas to the outside, just ahead, but he sneaks on through to the inside of turn 3. Great move from Hezzy Thomas. After Knife moved over to cover off the outside line on the braking zone, Hezzy Thomas just sneaks on through. Nunez and Douglas close on track once again, and out of turn 4. The AMG just can't get the power down to challenge the AMG into turn 5 and 6. You say Rally is drifting the track as much as possible, huh? Let's see what the 621's up to. Nearly got it there. There's too much grip in the Camaro. And out of the final corner, Aston Martin and AMG hoping to go side by side. Hello, Miguel. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Happy Monday. Welcome in. Last minute on the clock. It'll be this lap plus one more for these two battling it out for 15th place. Chris Douglas to the inside. Gabriel Nunez to the outside. They're going to go side by side out of turn 2 into turn 3. And once again, the Aston Martin just able to get the power down so much more effectively than the AMG to defend that position.
Right, man. Leader is on the final lap. Give it all you can.
So Tai Chin in the... or on the last lap in the race lead with a near 5-second gap to Reese Simmons in second place. And then it is a 10-second gap to Prakash Natasan, who is holding on to that final podium position. As Nunez continues to apply the pressure to Chris Douglas. This might be one of his best chances. Out of turn 7 into turn 8. Chris Douglas squeezing him to the inside as much as possible. The AMG is there. Chris Douglas continues to try to squeeze him. And they're still going to go side by side now out of turn 9. With the Aston Martin still ahead of the AMG. Aston rules indeed, and cheers to the hydrate once more as the 173 gets disqualified. I believe if I saw that correctly, it was for track limits. And so 3 miles left for Nunez to try and fight Douglas as Tai Chin rounds out the final couple of corners. A dominant performance in race 1 from the 54. KTM started in pole. Reese Simmons provided a challenge in the first half of the race, but Tai Chin able to show the dominant race pace in the last half and pull a 5-second gap and finish on top after 11 laps. Well done, Tai Chin, for another race win. Reese Simmons gets another podium finish in the spring season. And Prakash Natasan with a podium finish in the number 82 Dark Side Racing Camaro. Well done, Prakash. Congrats on that podium finish. Chris Saunderson finishes in 4th ahead of Daniel Estevez, who was able to hold off Josh Ransom. So Estevez finishes inside the top 5. Josh Ransom gets 6th place. Gurzada across the line in 7th in the number 29. With Konstantin Repis in the 28 Alpine, squiggling across the line in 8th. John Baptist finishes in 9th. Spady Bud rounds out the top 10 with quite some contact and a race from Spady Bud. No malicious contact, I should say, just the nature of the beast. Hezzy Thomas across the line in 11th place. And let's see, can Gabriel Nunez get the position out of the final corner? He almost had it, but once again the Aston Martin very effective on the power, so it will be Chris Douglas who will take 14th place ahead of Nunez in 15th. Screech takes 12th, Sarah Klein 13th. Mike Fisher out of the final corner. He will take the checkered flag in 16th place. And Kepler crawling to the line. Is Kepler out of fuel? He just might be. Kepler just crawling, coughing on fumes as the McLaren hopes to go to the line. No, and I think just that little bit of a climb at the end is gonna stop the progress of Kepler. Yeah, he's back to the pits, unfortunately. Oh, unfortunate there. Just the nature of the beast, that straightaway is quite hilly. Goes up and down and left and right. And right before the checkered flag, that slight little rise, and unfortunately the 62 can't take the checkered flag, but still gets 17th in the race. Won't affect his position. And yeah, unfortunately, he was just the last car on track too. Nobody behind him could push him across. So as the grid lined up in the pits, we wait for the time to tick over to get ourselves started for race number 2. Another 15-minute qualifying session. We'll see if we get a different grid order compared to that in race number 1. Yeah, Moriko, the only time I've seen a DSQ for track limits is if it's like a really like severe track cut. For example, at Monza, if you just ignore the first chicane entirely and just blast through there as if it doesn't count. If you do that enough times, that'll certainly give you a DSQ there. Yeah, good reminder. Rally, switch to race fuel. So race number 1 officially complete there. Ty Chin on top, Reese Simmons in second, Prakash Natasan takes third and rounds out the podium. Chris Saunderson 4th, Estevez 5th, Josh Ransom 6th, Gurzada in 7th, Repis 8th, John Baptist 9th, and Spady Bud rounds out the top 10.
Green light. Go, go, go.
And there we have the green light for qualifying number 2. 15 minutes ticking away. As we get the cars rolling out onto Snetterton's racing surface. Hezzy Thomas and Konstantin Repis leading the way in the 28 Alpine and 59 AMG. Getting there, GT4 is nice and warm and ready for the qualifying session. No tire warmers in the GT4s. They have to get all of the temperature and grip and pressure into that Pirelli rubber all on their own. As the 28 and 59 go on to the back straight. The 621 just behind the Audi of Chris Saunderson. Going into the hairpin at turn 4. Getting the outlaps squared away before pushing on for their timed laps. And so Repis across the line, he will lead the way and get a timed lap on the board. Into turn 1 he goes. Taking the apex nice and tight, not running wide on exit. Lining himself up for the braking zone at turn 2. And once again, a good solid line through the hairpin. A little bit wide at turn 3. Just trying to keep the speed onto this mini straight between turns 3 and 4. Tight hairpin approaching. A little bit deep for the first part. Doesn't want to take the apex there. Just keeping the speed as much as possible for the little mini straights. No dramas through turn 5. And into turn 6 and 7. He will look to get the Alpine lined up for the Bentley straight. We're right on board with the Alpine into the final sector as he crosses the Snetterton Bridge. going into turn 8 and into the heavily protected apex at turn 9. Doesn't want to touch that sausage curb one bit. Into the bomb hole, shooting himself out of turn 10 and into the long right-hander of turn 11. Before going on to the brakes for the final time, and out of the final corner, blasting to the line. Up through the gears he goes. And what will the time be from Repis? Across the line, it's a 2:1:40 as Hezzy Thomas sets a valid lap behind, and Tai Chin a 1:56.855 from the 54 KTM. Baptist will split Repis and Thomas. As the 621 of Rally Dutchy gets around the final corner with the V10 of Chris Saunderson screaming up ahead of him. Where will the Audi and the Camaro of Rally Dutchy go? Chris Saunderson goes to second. Rally Dutchy takes that place away and gets ahead of the Audi by about 0.3 of a second. Yeah, Moriko, a dominant time from Tai Chin. We'll see how close the rest of the grid can get to that time, as Vladislav Knife comes up to the line, and his 173 Alpine goes up to 6th, ahead of Hezzy Thomas by a couple of tenths. Podium sitter from race 1. Without a valid lap on the board just yet, but that may well yet change as he comes out of the final corner. Lasting to the line and goes up to 4th place. What do you mean, Rally? Start from P2. Get some confidence going. I believe in you. Reese Simmons just starting a lap, looking to get one on the board here, as we are just about halfway into the qualifying session. We'll keep our eyes open on the 64. And the wishes of Rally Dutchy have come true. Saunderson gets up to 2nd place. Hezzy Thomas moves up to 8th. Can Vladislav Knife respond to that lap time thrown by Hezzy Thomas? He comes out of the final corner. And up to the line and gets past a trio of cars all the way up to 6th place. As Reese Simmons now out of the final corner. Will this be a valid lap on the board for the 64 AMG? It will not. So Simmons will have to go around once more as Prakash Natasan unable to improve past 4th place at the moment. Improves his personal best, gets within a 10th of Rally Dutchy's time. Not quite. onto the front row just yet for Prakash Natasan. With Chris Saunderson looking to improve the second place benchmark. And he does just that by about 0.3 of a second. Yeah, Moriko, I couldn't agree more. We need all of the manufacturers represented. And it's a shame that there isn't a Ginetta, as Grisada goes all the way up to second place. Where did this pace come from? From the 29 AMG. Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of the Ginettas last season at least were the Firebrand team, and all of them got promoted out of the rookie season as well. There we go, Reese Simmons on the board up to second place within half a second of Ty Chin's time, as it was in race number, or in the first qualifying session I should say. So just under 5 minutes left. For Reese Simmons and the rest of the grid to find their best times. And we will have ourselves a grid for another 20-minute race coming up just ahead. Ty Chin on top, Reese Simmons in second, Grisada sits in third, Chris Saunderson fourth, Rally Dutchy currently in a top 5 position, Prakash Natasan in 6th, Vladislav Knife, the lead Alpine in 7th, Spady Bud 8th, Nunez in 9th, Repis 10th, Estevez in 11th, Screech in 12th, Baptist 13th, Fisher 14th, Hezzy Thomas 15th, Douglas in 16th. Still waiting on a valid lap from Kepler as Josh Ransom serving a qualifying ban in race number 2 here. Estevez slides into the top 5, gets ahead of the Camaros of Natasan, and Rally Dutchy and runs wide on turn 1 exit and spins out in the grass. And there's a good lap from Lewis Screech going all the way up to 4th. Hezzy Thomas unable to improve his personal best on that last lap, and into the final 2 minutes of the session we go, and he runs wide at turn 3. That will invalidate the lap for Hezzy, so he will have to go around to the start finish line and try and get a valid lap on the board, and he should have enough time to do so. Lewis Screech in the grass between turn 9 and 10. Reese Simmons going through that part of the track, trying to have some sort of answer to Tai Chin's time at the top of the charts. Currently about 4/10 back. Can this be the lap that finds Reese Simmons going to the front, splits the gap in half? With Prakash Natasan trying to improve but can't find a lap, as he, the podium sitter from race number 1, finds himself in 8th place with 1 lap left to go in his qualifying session. So Natasan on for a final lap to try and get an improvement, any little bit of an improvement. 3/10 is the gap between him and Gurzada in 3rd. So Tai Chin back out on track, looking to improve the benchmark. With just 1 corner left, the KTM will blast to the line. And heck, why not? Improves the benchmark at the front by another 1/10.5. So it's zeros on the board. Checkered flag is waving. Reese Simmons looking to complete Sector 3 as Chris Douglas is just blasting onto the line for his final flying lap attempt. Needs about 7/10 to get ahead of Hazzy Thomas, and he gets by a couple of cars all the way up to 14th. So Reese Simmons to the line and can't get an improvement. So second, it will be another 2nd place start with Prakash Natasan also unable to find an improvement on his last flying lap attempt, so he will start from 8th. And Rally Dutchy being ever so gracious, giving everybody some energy for race number 2. A very different grid than what we saw in the first 20-minute race. But the top 2 remain unchanged. Tai Chin at the top in the 54. True Racing KTM will lead the grid once more here in race number 2. And it is the same front row competitor as it was in race number 1. Reese Simmons with a 2nd place start in the Skyline by Tan B number 64 AMG. Can Reese challenge Tai into turn number 1 this time, or can the KTM get another good getaway? Gurzada starts from 3rd in the number 29 TTV Gurzada Racing AMG, with Lewis Screech getting a 2nd row start in the 52 Hamburger Racing Alpine. Chris Saunderson starts in the top 5 in the number 18 Allison Racing Audi, and he swapped positions in qualifying with Daniel Estevez in the Cayman Solaris 128 Porsche Cayman. Next you have Rally Dutchy, the lead Camaro, in the 621 Street Animals Racing, and it is an all Camaro 4th row with podium sitter from race number 1 on the back of the 4th row. In 8th, it's Prakash Natasan in the number 82 Dark Side Racing. Can he work his way up back into a trophy winning position? Next is Vladislav Knife in the 173 TK Racer Alpine. He and Spady Bud had a good race in race number 1, And it is Spady Bud keeping him company on the 5th row in the Mad Fox Racing 21 Camaro. Welcome in, IB Schofield and Raiders. You join us at a great time. We are going through the grid for the start of race number 2. We continue down with Gabriel Nunez in 11th. He is in the Liepert Motorsports 771 AMG. Constantin Reyes next to him in the RSK Racing Team Pro 28 Alpine. The number 7 of John Baptist is next in the Trinity Racing livery. He starts from 13th. Chris Douglas keeps him company on the 7th row in the Generation AMR Super Racing 718 Aston Martin. Then you got Mike Fisher in the 23 Code Red Camaro. The number 23 starts from the front of the 8th row. Hezzy Thomas keeps him company in the 59 Dog Box Racing AMG, with Aka Kepler in the 62 McLaren starting from 17th. Last but not least, Josh Ransom starting a quali ban, so he will start from the back of the pack, but he will start from the grid in the 325 TVR. And welcome in, Ivy Schofield and all of you lovely Raiders. 20 minutes on the clock. Hope your guys' stream went well. And as I said, you joined us at a great time. 20 minutes of racing on the clock for 18 rookies. Unfortunately, losing Sarah Klein due to some PC issues. But that is A-okay. 18 rookies still ready to go. This is what the view looks like from Josh Ransom's Porsche as he drives into the Sunoco sign, taking out the barrier, or not the barrier, the advertising board. Unhappy with the placement. And Tai Chin hoping to get another good getaway in the KTM and make it win 2-4-2 on the night. As it stands, Tai Chin is the championship leader by 15 points ahead of Reese Simmons. Tai Chin just dabbing onto the brakes there, getting them nice and warm for the race start up ahead. Can Gurzada get a good getaway from 3rd and challenge the front row? And same with Lewis Screech. He has a couple of podiums to his name in the season. Can he get a good getaway and return back some silverware for the night for the Alpines? So the grid gets lined up in zipper formation, 9 rows of cars, 18 drivers looking to get going here. They've done it once. They've learned their way around. They've learned how to go side by side through these corners. Let's see what race 2 will bring us.
Green light. Go, go, go.
And Tai Chin already cutting across Reese Simmons at the start, and it is nearly 4 wide at the back. Reese Simmons, and much more aggressive at the start, has a run down to the inside of turn 2. The KTM runs well wide to give the space, but has the grip around the outside to keep the position. The top 3 remain unchanged, but it's Chris Saunderson challenging the Alpine of Lewis Screech. But unable to get by through turn 3, so it is the top 5, top 6, top 7, top 10 that remains pretty much unchanged. Prakash Natasan down a few places from where he started. He currently rounds out the top 10. So it's Spady Bud and Vladislav Knife who move up a few places, and it's the Alpine of Knife going into Rally Duchy as the 621 tries to rejoin in the Camaro, hopefully doing at a good spot there, a good gap in the traffic there. Nice and safe rejoin from the Camaro. And so Reese Simmons in the 64 still applying the pressure as best as possible. Too tight chin. We know he's got the race pace to pull away in the early stages of the race. It's the best moments for Reese Simmons to try and challenge that race lead, with Grzada staying pretty close behind, and Chris Saunderson challenging Lewis Screech for 4th place. The Alpine squeezing the Audi to the inside. And it is an over-under move for Lewis Screech to defend the position. Well done from the Alpine, but Saunderson goes in hot and heavy into turn 2, and it's the Porsche that bats the Alpine off the track. Saunderson goes through the Porsche, so after all of that, Saunderson does get 4th place. Estevez moves up to 5th. Spady Bud behind the Porsche now, with Lewis Screech dropping back to 7th place. Two Alpines side by side momentarily, but it's Knife getting ahead of Repis, who might challenge him down the inside. But it is Knife who holds on to the position ahead of Konstantin Repis. Josh Ransom looking to get into the top 10. He's got 11th place for the time being. He's just behind the pair of Alpines as he pulls into the inside for turn 8. Hopes to get it done on the brakes, but Repis is confident and sweeps around the outside to hold on to that position. And Prakash Natasan getting back to the position he started in 8th position. And also now has the fastest lap of the race. So he looks to carry that momentum to try and get ahead of Spady Bud. In his hopes of challenging to be the lead Camaro. That's Josh Ransom off in the grass in the background. He was hoping to get in the top 10, but he will slide back behind Chris Douglas in 13th place. And to the inside of turn 4, the Porsche sends it, but goes too deep. And way too deep onto the grass. Hard to get it slowed down there. And more positions lost for the 325 Porsche. He rejoins in 16th place. As the tires that protect the apex go tumbling in the background there, Prakash Natasan with equally matched machinery to Spady Bud. Up ahead, can't take advantage, but that's Lewis Screech going deep, and not one, but two Camaros might go through here as Lewis Screech goes into the grass, exiting turn 9. Natasan has the inside, and he sweeps through turn 11 to get 7th place ahead of Lewis Screech. Screech won't give it up easy though. The Alpine has some good cornering speed. He might try and fight it through turns 1 and 2. But just not quite close enough to the back of the Camaro that just overtook him. So Lewis Screech will have to settle into 8th position and try and fight past the Camaros up ahead. A good 3-car battle developing here. Gurzata holding on to that final podium position. Chris Saunderson getting within touching distance. He's about 1.5 seconds behind. And Daniel Estevez, same story for him. Just about 1 second behind the Audi of Chris Saunderson. So still lots of racing to go here as Gurzata goes to the inside. Doesn't want to give any slipstream to the V10 Audi behind, but in doing so misjudges the braking zone of turn 8, and he himself goes into the grass at turn 9. The Camaros go through, and the pair of Alpines go through as well. So from 3rd to 9th goes Gurzata. So Chris Saunderson will now occupy 3rd place with Daniel Estevez just behind him. He will look to fight for that podium place. Into the final 12 minutes we go. Lewis Screech not giving any breathing room to Prakash Natasan, as he has the black and blue Camaro of Spady Bud in front of him. So this is now a battle for a top 5 position between the two Camaros and the Alpine of Lewis Screech. Yeah, that tire bundle was certainly quite something, Morrico. And I agree, the Hungaroring will certainly provide some great action, especially with the multi-class format. As Rally Dutchy, having to claw his way back, finds himself behind Chris Douglas. Some contact earlier on between Dutchy and Vladislav Knife in the Alpine. Chris Douglas having to defend for all of race 1 from the Mercedes of Nunez, now has the Camaro of Rally Dutchy, and John Baptist in the Porsche pretty close behind as well. So 2 cars applying the pressure to Chris Douglas in 12th.
We are at the halfway mark. Keep pushing.
Estevez still wants 4th place as Lewis Screech goes to the pits. And Spady Bud doing donuts in the pit lane. What happened there to the Camaro? Lewis Screech and Spady Budd on track together. Might have been some contact between them. But nonetheless, both of them now back in the pits. So the order now as it stands, we've got Tai Chin leading from Reese Simmons by about 2.5 seconds. Then Chris Saunderson in third, up ahead of Daniel Estevez here in fourth. Prakash Natasan moves up to a top 5 position. He's got Vladislav Knife behind him in 6th. Gurzada in 7th. Repis 8th. Hezzy Thomas moves up into a top 10 place. He's in 9th. Chris Douglas in 10th. He's got Rally Dutchy right behind him with John Baptist in the Porsche very close as well. Nunez in 13th. Fisher in 14th. Kepler 15th, Ransom in 16th, and Lewis Screech now with a drive-through after taking a visit down the pit lane as well. Just under 8 minutes remaining. 6 laps completed by our race leader. About 5 more to go. Very tight battle we have for that final spot in the top 10. Currently being held by Chris Douglas. Rally Dutchy right on the tail of the Aston Martin though, and John Baptist keeping those two within touching distance in the number 7 Porsche. Out of the turn 3 exit, Rally Dutchy looked like the Camaro had a good run. But Chris Douglas defending very well once again here in race number 2. And we have lost Josh Ransom. And Lewis Screech from this race, as well as Spady Budd. So some more casualties here in race number 2 than 1. But 15 still carrying on. As the 28 of Repis stranded at turn 9 with some front end damage as well. He falls back from 7th to 12th. Rally Dutchy close to Douglas once again. Douglas taking the inside defensive line. No room for Rally Dutchy to get the over-under done. And forced to go the long way around, slowing down the Camaro's progress. Yeah, R2 is more racy, I would say, in the sense that there's a lot more kind of side-by-side close racing. In race 1, there's a lot of contact that happens to where one car kind of gets thrown off and then the battle gets stopped. But in race 2, I find that the battles just carry on for so much longer as all of the cars can't find the braking zone. Chris Douglas goes off, and everybody follows him. Rally Dutchy right behind. Must have been an oil spill there, with the way all three of them went off there. And John Baptist, unfortunately, losing the positions to Repis and Nunez as well. Hezzy Thomas battling with Gurzata for what is now 7th and 8th place for the pair of AMGs. Gurzata gets ahead, but Hezzy Thomas not giving it up easily. Into turn 1, Hezzy Thomas sends it down the inside, surprising everybody, even us here in the commentary booth, and he goes through up to 7th. Gurzata returns the favor. Hezzy Thomas saw it coming. He gets the over-under attempt, but Gurzata has the inside for turn 3 contact between the two AMGs, and Gurzata with the strong attack into turn 2, able to take 7th back. As the two AMGs continue to squabble, Rally Dutchy trying to reel them in. The gap is 2 seconds to the 621 Camaro. Oh, Hezzy sure does want that place. And Gurzata tries to hold off the position, as he did on the previous attempt we saw with Saunderson. He goes to that inside line to try and cover off the slipstream, but in doing so, it almost distracts him from the braking zone. And in that mess, Hezzy Thomas has to go onto the grass on turn 9. And Rally Dutchy is right in play here. Let's ride on board with the 621. Nice and gingerly through turn 1. Doesn't want to cause any dramas to the back end of that Camaro, because he is now very close to the AMG of Hezzy Thomas for 8th place. Gurzata pulling out a decent gap in the first sector, but Rally Dutchy running wide on the exit of turn 3 slows down at the Camaro's progress. But Hezzy Thomas takes the defensive line already. Through turn 5, the AMG sending it through the apex. Rally Dutchy right on the back of Hezzy Thomas now.
Alright, man, the leader is on the final lap. Give me the final push.
So Tai Chin starting his final lap in the lead of the race, as Hezzy Thomas has to go down the inside, taking out the tires, protecting the apex, but still no room for Rally Dutchy to go through. So these two will start their final 3-mile lap, with Hezzy Thomas holding on to 8th, Rally Dutchy trying to get that place away. Onto the final lap they go, into turn 1, AMG ahead of the Camaro. One of the best overtaking opportunities coming up at turn 2. Does the Camaro send it down the inside? Rally Dutchie does not. Sticks right onto the bumper, tries to get the grip out of turn 2. Maybe turn 4 is where Rally's Dutchie is hoping to get the move done as Hezzy Thomas clips the grass on the inside of the apex in a bit of a wiggle on the exit. Maybe, just maybe slowing him down just a touch, but Rally Dutchie can't find a way through. So with all the drama happening behind, Tai Chin able to avoid all of that. And after 11 laps, once again turning pole into win, it is 2 for 2 on the night for the True Racing KTM. With Reese Simmons across the line for another second place finish on the night. Chris Saunderson will round out the podium places in the number 18 Audi, with Daniel Estevez behind him in 4th. And Rally Dutchie did get through Hezzy Thomas to get that 8th place position. Prakash Natasan takes the checkered flag in 5th, Vladislav Knife in 6th. Then you have Grzada here, takes the checkered flag in 7th place. Rally Dutchie in 8th. Not sure what happened to Hezzy Thomas there, but nonetheless, it's another top 10 finish for our controller warrior, Hezzy Thomas, in the number 59. Konstantin Repis rounds out the top 10. John Baptist in 11th place, with Chris Douglas battling with Chris Douglas battling with Gabriel Nunez to the line. As the Aston Martin able to finish ahead of the AMG once again. Douglas takes 12th, Nunez 13th, Mike Fisher in 14th place, and Kepler in the 62 McLaren. 1 corner left for him. Oh no! Unfortunately, as he's back end getting eaten and losing in this race, Screech, Ransom, and Spady Bud. So Tai Chin on top, Reese Simmons second, Chris Saunderson in 3rd, Estevez in 4th, Natasan in 5th. Vladislav Knife 6th, Grzada 7th, Rally Dutchie in 8th, Hezzy Thomas in 9th, and Konstantin Repis rounds out the top 10. Podium sitters, please join us in the green room for a quick chat of how your race went on, as we will take it back to the studio here. We'll wait for our lovely podium sitters to pile on in, if they so choose so. Thank you for the follow. Happy to have you here with us at Trackalicious. We've got Ty and Reese ready for interviews. Welcome in.
Hello.
How are you doing tonight?
Mic's not working if you're speaking.
That's correct. It is not working. Welcome in.
There we go.
Happy to have you here. How's it going, Ty? We'll start with you. 2 race wins on the night. Pretty dominant performance. Did you feel like at any point in lap 1 or in the early stages of the race you were challenged for that win?
Yeah, It was a bit of a handful trying to keep the KTM in control. Um, the, the KTM is really well. My setup, I tried to maximize as much as I could. I went zero wing. It was really hard to control, especially over the curves, because every time I would go over them, it would bounce pretty severely. But yeah, I tried as hard as I could to keep the car in control and to keep P1 as best as I could. I don't know if the moves I did out on track were a bit too much, because it felt like I was moving a little bit too much for my like from my perspective. I think I was a little bit too aggressive, moving a bit too much. But yeah, it was a good race result and a good challenge of the car, especially.
Yeah, and Reese said it's the kind of same thing to you did. At any point, you feel like Ty could have slipped up down in that first lap, that first half of those races for you to potentially sneak up and steal a win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I just had no answer for him today, really, and well, all the results kind of prove that. I sort of realised for race 2 that if I was gonna pick up a win, it would be in the opening few laps. So, I mean, race 1, I thought we had a really good battle, and then I don't really know what happened to my pace. So I just sort of fell off, sort of halfway through. I think maybe I cooked the tyres a bit too much, maybe trying to make that move. And then, yeah, race 2, I knew it would have to be done really early. So I definitely did try. I was a bit more aggressive off the start. But yeah, just no answer. Didn't happen today, but there's a lot for me to take from it. So I'm happy with my performance overall. It's good points. And yeah, just a really fun race again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was super fun in those opening laps between you two. And welcome in Prakash Natsasan, podium finish in race number 1. You got it done in the qualifying there. You finished up ahead of kind of all of that kind of midfield that had very similar pace. And talk us through what went through your mind in race number 1 there. You can hear us. Hello. Maybe not.
Oh. Technical issues.
Technical issues. That's okay. That's just how it goes sometimes. Ah, here we go. Josh doesn't have a mic, but he's replying the answers to me in the DMs, which is great. So he said this tire pressures and consistency was the key to pulling off the podium. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. The consistency is almost the most important thing, especially in a series like this where any little mistake and you go off track and almost the whole grid seems to go on through. We saw that happen a bit in the battle for the top 5 and top 10 positions, where one car just gets shuffled out and then there's 3 cars going through and no one can rejoin safely. And Prakash also saying a lot of luck was involved. And yeah, it's like it was kind of seemed that way too. And then in race number 2, kind of just didn't have that pace in the qualifying and started off on the back foot and able to get a top 5 finish though. So still a good result and getting that consistency, staying out of the danger, always important to do. And so yeah, congrats to you 3 for getting the podium finishes tonight. Good luck in the rest of the season as we have hit the halfway mark of the championship.
Oh, really? Damn.
Round number 4 of 8 here. Next week, we will start the second half. So yeah, good luck to you guys. We'll give more of a deep dive into the standings and how everything looks next week. And yeah, keep up the good work. hope to chat to you guys next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not a problem. I'll move you guys on back here real quick. Thanks for joining us, Prakash, Reese, and Ty, for a quick chat. And join us tomorrow for round number 6. Or excuse me, no, it is going to be round number 7. 6 or 7? I don't remember. Anyway, Le Mans Ultimate tomorrow, GT3 Sprint Championship going into the closing rounds of that one. Tight championship at the top of that as well. Lots to look forward to there. Wednesday, we go to the Hungaroring for the ACC Multi-Class Championship in their GT3 and GT4 showdowns. Before we switch to iRacing Multi-Class on Thursdays, they are doing the GTP and the GT3 Championship for their multi-class format this season. On Friday, we go to the LMU Multi-Class in their 75-minute endurance-style races with the hypercars and the LM GT3s. Saturday is a nice break for everybody. And then on Sundays, we go to the MX5 Cups in iRacing for some fun races in that department. And then we are back next Monday for round number 5 for the GT4 rookies. Thank you to all of the followers at the end there. Couldn't quite catch the names, but thank you guys for following along. Hope you enjoyed the action of tonight's round number 4 around Snetterton for the GT4 rookies. Stick around for the raid of B-Roy doing some Le Mans Ultimate in a sneak peek of what you might catch tomorrow in the 40-minute sprint races in that championship. I've been Kuja Terekov. This has been Trackalicious. Thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be watching us. Thank you for joining, and we will catch you next time.